everyone, it's Stephanie here with a video from My Favorite Things. In today's video, we are going to be recreating a card that was designed by design team member Melania using new products from the March 2017 release. This card is going to create a fun pop-up scene on the inside, but before we get to that, we want to do some detail on the outside of the card design. So I've taken the new Blueprints 31 Dynamics die set and I've die cut a stitch rectangle from a white piece of cardstock, and I'm going to do some stamping on this with the No Place Like Home stamp set. This is a sentiment stamp set that's geared towards home related things. It's got some really great sentiments for new neighbors or new homes, and it also has some really great love theme sentiments. So we're going to stamp our sentiment for this card right on the front panel here using Versamark ink, and then we're going to heat emboss it with white embossing powder. And that's just because we're going to be adding some ink to this panel, so having it embossed with the white is going to allow that sentiment to kind of pop out from behind that ink that we're going to add. We're adding some detail to the cardstock panel by adding the radiating ray stencil over top, and I just used some repositionable tape to kind of hold everything in place. And then I'm taking an ink blending tool and some pink dye ink, and we're just very carefully adding color all the way around that whole stencil area onto the cardstock panel. And it leaves us with this great little detail in the middle where we have the white circle, and then we have these pink rays kind of going out towards the outside edges. And then for the edges, I decided to use the ink blending tool and really make that more solid. I wanted the ink to fully be blended on the outside edges and kind of work its way into the stencil pattern. And this really helps to make that sentiment stand out since the pink ink fully covers it, and then the white embossed detail kind of pops out from behind that ink color. I've used the new Lock and Key Dynamics die set to cut out the heart-shaped key from a piece of silver glitter cardstock, and I've also cut it out from a piece of craft foam. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to layer the glitter key right over top of the craft foam key, and that's just going to give us a bit of dimension on this design and easily allow us to kind of have it pop up off the card without having to cut multiple keys from cardstock and layering them on top of one another. So I'm just using some liquid glue to add glue to the back of the silver key, and then I'm just positioning it right over top of the craft foam key, and then making sure once they're fully adhered that I can add this whole entire key to the front of the card. So I'm keeping the heart detail of the key centered on that circle opening. I also added a few little pink hearts that I die cut from pink cardstock using the Tag Builder Blueprints 5 Dynamics, and I just kind of adhered those on with some liquid glue around the key area, and then that's going to finish this panel and we can add it to our card base. So I'm just using regular adhesive and I'm going to completely cover the back of this panel, and then I'm just going to position it right into the center area of a white card base, and then set this aside so that we can work on the inside piece of the card, which is where the fun is going to happen because we're going to create some really fun pop-up elements. So I have the Home Sweet Home Dynamics die set, and I went ahead and did all of the die cutting ahead of time just to save a little bit of time because it does take a little bit to, die cut everything and add all the windows and the doors and everything on. But it's so cute when you get everything together. I just love this die set. There's so many different things you can do with it. Before we build our scene on the inside of the card, I do want to do some stamping and add some inking to my panel. So I just kind of scored where it's going to fold so I know where the fold's going to be, but I didn't actually fold it in half because I want it to lay flat while I do all of my stamping and inking. So I'm starting off with the sentiment first, and I'm just putting that into some black licorice dye ink, and I'm stamping it right on the bottom area of this cardstock panel. And keep in mind this is still fully open, so this is going to be the bottom area of the card when it opens. And then I want to add some ink detail up at the top area, which is going to be the background of our little scene that we're going to create with the houses. So I've taken the radiating ray stencil once again, and this time I'm adhering it up to the top right portion of the card. And I'm just taking some yellow ink this time and adding ink right through that stencil to create my sun. And when I have the inking done, you can see I kind of have a lot of white detail in between the rays and in the top area. And since I want this to look like a full sun, I decided to take the ink blending tool once again and completely go over that detail. And what that does is it gives me the stencil design, but it also gives me some soft yellow detail over top so that it looks a little bit more realistic. And then I just need to add some sky and grass to the scene as well. So I use some blue distress ink at the top, and then I'm also using a bit of green distress ink in the bottom area or the top of the inside panel. And I'm just going to blend that out until I'm happy with it, and then we can go ahead and die cut the pop-up portions of the card. To create the pop-up detail on the inside of the card, I'm using the Pop-Up Elements Narrow Die-namics. This is a really fun die set that allows you to cut little pieces on the inside of a card that's going to let you pop things up. It looks kind of funny right now just seeing the dies there, but I'm going to run this through my die cut machine twice. So I did 2 on one side and 2 on the other, so you can see I have 4 there. And what happens when you die cut these is it only die cuts up and down, but it leaves the top and the bottom completely intact. And since I've already scored the card, I have that score line right in the center area. So what's going to happen is I'm going to kind of pull all the pieces into the inside of the card, and then I'm going to fold the card as you normally would. And I'm going to use my bone folder to kind of really press down on all those seams. And what's going to happen is I'm going to have the card open and close, but those 4 pieces that I've die cut kind of stick out into the inside of the card. And they're going to allow me to adhere the little houses on and create a fun little pop-up village. So I just love the interactive way that these dies work, and it's just a really fun way to add something to the inside of a card. Now that everything's die cut, we can put the whole card together. So what I did is I just added adhesive to the back of that whole entire card panel that we did the pop-up detail on. And then I just put it on the inside of the card that we created at the beginning. And now we have one complete card that has the pop-up detail and has that really fun front design that we created with the key. So now everything's together, we can add all of the different pieces that are going to create our scene. So first I added all of the trees to the background area. So I have the larger trees in the background and then the little potted trees in the front. I'm adding the little clouds onto the sky area, and I'm just trimming off any excess that kind of goes over the side of the card. And then to adhere the houses on, I'm putting the adhesive right onto the kind of the pop-up piece. And that's just going to make sure I don't have any adhesive on the back of the houses that's not touching the pop-up piece. Because when you close the card, if you have adhesive kind of showing on the sides of the houses, it's going to stick to the background. And then once I have that done, we have this really fun, awesome pop-up scene. You can see when I open the card, I have this really great little neighborhood that sits perfectly in the little scene that we've created with all of the die cuts and all of the inking. So thank you so much to Melania for this really fun card design. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.